whatever package. Now you cannot do the graphics under Sigwin environment, so this is meaningless. There's other packages if you're interested in exploring with Python. There are lots of other packages, but the one that we just did recently is NumPy, because we use that for having the calculating the mean, median, and the standard deviation. Okay. So that's the process. Okay, so I just want to make it clear about installation. That's probably the most, well, that's one difficult step. The other difficult step is actually getting the program to work, which I gave you the really pretty much the code to get that thing done. Of course, I didn't get the do the 3 data sets, but you can handle those. So I don't think this is a difficult assignment. You just have to get the things to work, little details. Okay, I want to actually take a look at the NumPy again with some of the array functions that are available. So the array is really important because you use array a lot in other programming languages, or array is a really important concept. So basically you have a array like this, and you kind of like a bin. You start with a array index is 0, and you have in an array you have index, and you have data can be stored individual kind of like a slots. Okay, and I told you before this when we looked at the array, Python array is a little bit different, and Python does not have, it's important that you understand this, built-in support for array. But Python has a list which can be used like a array, accessing the kind of items in an array, and etc. So again, it's not have a built-in support for arrays. So in other words, you cannot do something like with a subscript, number 5 with the array name and 5 in a traditional way, but you still can do things with the array. So now so we looked at last time some of these kind of like things to do with the array, and then there's a NumPy array, which is which you can do a lot more things, a little bit more things. So you might ask, this is a kind of array setup, right? So which kind of like a list, right? Same thing. So you might ask, why, what's the difference, having the list and having like this NumPy with the array method? It's because you can set up like this using a list, right? For example, let's say so this one is NumPy array method. Now, how would you set up without the using the NumPy? How do you make a list? Let's say we have like 5 numbers like this. Instead this time we'll call it the AR1, ARR 1 or 2. Let's say 2 and 1. Okay, this time we want to make a list. Okay, so the list, remember the syntax goes like this for string. If it's just the number, what do? You just put the items in there, right? So let's say we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now this one prints out the let's say 2, which will print out the entire list of the item. Okay, now let's say we like to print out, maybe I should do that in sequence, but it doesn't matter, it's the same thing anyway. So let's say we like to print out just the list. This time we like to print out the list. Okay, so this one prints out just the list. This one prints out the numpy with the array method. Okay, so you can still do both of them set up in 2 ways. Okay, slightly, slightly different, but just to demonstrate. So now let's say we like to, if we have an array, you like to check the last items in an array. Print out the last items. Let's see if you remember that. How do you print out the last item in an array? The last item of the array, what? Maybe you forgot already. -1, right? Remember that? So you could go just say -1 to print out the last one. Okay, so but ARR2 is also same thing. So there's really not much of difference at all. But so what's the difference? Well, so why do you have this numpy array anyway? Because of memory and performance, for efficiency. There are a couple other reasons. That's the major reason. Okay, and then there are some things that you can do, like some of these that you can do much more conveniently in the numpy array. So so there is some couple of differences, like more ways of doing things. Like for example, like a slicing, you have some stuff that are available, but there is like here, the 2-dimensional array, 3-dimensional arrays, and things like that. That's numpy stuff. Okay, so if you don't need to, just if you're dealing with a simple array, you don't have to use a numpy. I mean simple lists, then you don't have to particularly use numpy. But it's probably good to use it because for performance reasons. Especially if you have a large data, like if you have a large data like ours, if you have 1,000 records and you are performing array with that sort of thing. Okay, so having that in mind, let's look at some of the features of the numpy. Okay, pretty much same thing as the setup, except that you do dot array. This one is kind of like an alias. Okay, so you add something to make it a little bit short. That's so if you wanna have a shortcut. Now this 1D 2D stuff, that 1D is pretty much what we're used to, but if you can have a 2D setup, 3D setup, that comes with the NumPy stuff. So this is where you wanna there is advantages to doing the you know the two-dimensional arrays and three-dimensional setup. You want to work with that. So what's the application? Well, if you're doing like a metrics type of operation, that's probably, if you want to make it like this with the numbers, with the slots, like a playing tic-tac-toe, or some other some of those applications maybe. So you have to think about that. What kind of array setup do I need? Okay, so we probably don't need to go into too much details of those, because I don't see why it's not something that we would really need, getting into too much of deep like that with two-dimensional and three-dimensional. So basically, the simple array setup, which we did with a list, we already did it. Okay, now make sure that let's go back to the list. Just to make sure that the accessing items and maybe removing items, that you are able to do it, and replacing item, you are able to handle that. Okay, inserting item, for example, insert in the beginning, insert in the last. Okay, appending. Okay, we did that. And that sort of things. Okay, that's the listing. Changing the items, accessing the item. Accessing is like a reading the item, reading the array item. Okay, so you could now this is changing item, so this is actually changing the item by the values here. But very similarly to access item, one thing you can do is the brackets and the index numbers. Okay, so that's pretty much what you have to do. Now it has the range of numbers. Okay, the range of numbers, and the so the ones that are available is actually the range of numbers. Now that's with a list. So if you look at here, you can access a particular item in the list by just using a sub-index number. Okay, so in this case, as I told you, that it starts with the 0, so this will be banana. Okay, and then the range of numbers with a colon, we saw that with a colon, and the negative numbers means going from the right to left, from all the way to the end. Okay, so that's another method. and then the colon in the middle, that was the range. Okay, so you want to try to remember those. And then this one is what? By leaving out the sort value, the range will start at the first item. So in this case, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it says don't include, start from the beginning. Okay, so if we don't put the number, it starts from beginning, but it skips the fourth item, which is actually fifth item, because the array starts with a 0. If you don't put something in the beginning, if you put something in the first and not the last, then the range will go to the end of the list. So this returns a cherry and to the end. So that will go 2 and yeah. This will return this guy here. This will return up to 0, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, not 4. Okay. Alright. So it's kind of difficult to remember, Python is not my primary language, so, and then I know so many languages, but Python is not my usual language, so I kind of know, but it's not something I have in my head. I have to look at it again to remind myself. Okay, so, and then, so that's pretty much it. Okay, now let's do something with the, that's as far as the NumPy is concerned. So let's actually do something again with the stuff we downloaded last time, and then take a look at a couple more applications. So this was the one of the